up, everybody? My name is Gina Theresa.
My name is Rodrigo Borgess.
And you're watching the New York Film Academy's Twitch channel,
Schooled!
We are here tonight with Glenn Storm. Thank you for coming back, Glenn. Apparently we didn't scare you away the first time. That was very exciting.
I wasn't even here.
We did. It was frightened. You've just been, like, trying to deal with it.
Yes.
That's great.
This is part of my therapy.
Yeah, face your fears.
Yep.
Glenn, last time you were in, we did similar stuff. We were talking about game design. Tonight we're focusing specifically on the tools that we can use to build games.
Yep.
And I want to first talk a little bit about your credentials. Like, why are you even allowed to be on our show right now? I heard that you did a very long stint doing animation in like film and TV.
It's a lie. Oh, I mean, yes, I did.
But you worked on cool stuff. You did. What did you do? James and the Giant Peach? Or no, Iron Giant. Iron Giant, not James and the Giant Peach. Iron Giant and Osmosis Jones.
And Sinbad.
And Sinbad.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get into the meat of what we're doing today.
Now, what are we doing?
We're playing with stuff. We're learning the tools of video games.
Yes.
Yeah.
So part of what I do in the programming classes is talk about tools. And I try to get people away from thinking of programming as just this wall of incomprehensible text that somehow makes the magic happen. And start to get them thinking in practical terms about little pieces of what they want their game to do. And we'll call that a tool. And then you can make just that one tool, and guess what? You get to reuse that tool and do it again, either in the same game or a different game, and build up tool sets for your ability to make more games.
Cool. I know that we have. Summerboy was just clarifying that in House of Cards they used video games to treat PTSD, which is really cool. I didn't know that. I know that Velson's kind of like one of our like super awesome always here people.
Our regulars.
And Velson is a game designer as well. And so if you want to kind of do like a Cliff's Notes, like what program are we working in? What kind of that kind of thing, so they can start paying attention, because I know they tend to multitask.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Velson, listen.
All right.
Oh, there he is.
So today we're working in the Unity game engine, and we're programming in a language called C#, which is a flavor of the C language which is used in just about every game. And what we're going to do is take advantage of Unity's component-based architecture to make tools. Basically, we can make a single object be whatever we want according to the component we put on it. So here's this empty shell of a thing, and it could be
Rodrigo.
It could be Rodrigo, because we put a Rodrigo component on it, and now that's what it is, right? But if I take that out and put a light component in it, now it's a light. If I take the camera component, now it's a camera. It's really the same thing. And in fact, we can make very complicated tools by saying, well, this tool not only deals with the health, but it also deals with the respawn of our player when they die, that kind of a thing. And we can mix and match our tools that way. So should we sort of back up a bit and go to the game that we started with a long time ago?
Yeah, so this is a game that I did everything 100% with no assistance. And it's really good, but then Glenn ruined it and made it used to look really nice with like people and fire. Yeah. And
are you serious?
No.
Okay.
Not even a little bit.
But
it's
I wasn't
always
even
been,
here, guys.
It's always been a box and a blue dot.
Yeah, but there's a dragon, right? That's the blue dot.
The blue dot is a dragon.
Right.
Okay, so the white box is what?
Okay, so the white box is our player here. We can see this, yes? Okay.
Yes.
We can see it, yeah. Okay.
Okay. The idea is that when we hit play, we're going to start running the simulation, the game simulation. We can hit stop, and then we're going to come back to this state. So here I am hitting play, and we saw our player hit the ground, and I can use my control keys to, I can use my control keys to move the player around, and don't hit the dragon, oh no! And just kind of avoid the dragon and get to the end. The end of this very simple maze allows us to say you win. So
what happens if we hit the dragon? I don't remember.
Glorious game.
Do we die?
Nothing.
Ah!
I think absolutely nothing happens. Should I test that theory? Yes, we should.
Wow, you go through the dragon.
Yeah. Maybe there's a losing kind of situation we could put in there. But that would be a good thing to try out right now. this was the game that we made before, and it was, I think, to just describe what the heck makes a game and to sort of get us away from being afraid of code, because, you know, this is what code looks like.
Oh boy.
Right? Oh no, what is this? Well, this is the thing that just said you win, so it's not that bad, right? I mean, it's friendly, right?
Yes, at
It
least
says-
it's not evil.
Right? I think I described briefly that there is some preamble to this text, this wall of text, that we can safely ignore. There's a name for this wall of text that I called end trigger, which makes some sense because this is the trigger that happens at the end. We have some things that every script wants to remember and things that every script wants to do. Remembering stuff and doing stuff are the two things that scripts do. So in this case, this tool is going to remember that banner that's going to turn on and say you win. That way it has some reference to it and it knows what to turn on. The thing it's going to do is simply turn it on when we run into the end zone. I guess we can call it the end zone.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, right. So this is the remembering.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
It's his mom and dad, but they're mine now, and I've stolen them.
Okay.
It's
All
my
right.
stepmom and my dad. So.
Well, so let's say that we have this tool here that seems to be working okay. I mean, we just tested it, right? And it said you win. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in action, here's the game object that I just described. This is this empty thing, and we put something in it. Well, that something we put in is that script we
Is
were
the
just
trigger.
looking at, right? Here's the thing it's remembering, the end text. This is a game object that does nothing more than sit there off until some point we turn it on. And so it says you win because we turned it on. That's
Okay.
really all that's happening. There's this thing sitting there waiting till we get to this zone, and in fact you can kind of see the zone highlighted in green here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And once it gets there, it knows to turn on this game object.
Oh.
So that's what we're talking about here. These are tools. The kind of tools we're talking about are really nothing more different than saying, you know, let's go to the shop and figure out the right tool for the job. You've heard this expression,
Yeah.
right? You got to get the right tool for the job. Measure twice, cut once. These are all like carpentry expressions we can use. Okay, cool. Because when you're constructing a game, you start with a lot of the same things. You have this grand idea, and then you say, well, how are we going to do that? Let's draw up a plan, like an architect would, right?
Yeah.
And then largely that plan goes to the contractor and they say, well, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. And you kind of adjust the plan and fix it or whatever. But when it comes time to actually building stuff, you grab your tools and go to work. And you build it and you measure twice and cut once, but then you build it and it builds up over time. It's not like, let's make a house and you just kind of go from the roof of the house all the way to the floor and it's done. It's not, you know, it's not like material printing or something like that. It's actually it takes one piece at a time, you know. So okay, let's continue with the idea of showing our images here. So what kind of tools are we talking about? I think people are familiar with these kinds of toolboxes from image programs. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is a little more familiar, and the kinds of tools we're talking about could be like the ones you see for. This is a scary image.
That's horrifying.
For Photoshop, I think this image was trying to show you how to use some of the tools that are in Photoshop. The dodge tool, the burn
That's
tool,
going to
the
haunt
sponge
my
tool.
dreams.
Yes, exactly. And I think they're showing you where to use it, but I can't get away from this guy having green eyes.
Felipe wants to know how long it takes to develop a game.
Yeah.
Is Felipe one of yours?
Felipe's my brother.
What up, bro? I have no idea.
How you doing, little guy?
Apparently it took 15 weeks for 2 people.
15 weeks for 2 people working really hard was able to make a game, but it depends. Right? If you're trying to make
Call of Duty.
If it were Felipe,
How
would
is it to make Call of Duty?
It's a lot to do. I'm going to say 16 weeks. No. If you are making a simple game, you know, you can there are game jams that try to make a game in 24 hours or less.
And sometimes they're really good.
And they do it. And they do a decent job for that amount of time with 3 people or something. It gets crazy.
Emily's Away?
Mm-hmm.
Was they made a game jam?
Yeah, these are. Yeah, or at least inspired by, and then blown out to a full game.
Yeah.
That kind of pressure is actually an interesting design tool. When you have that kind of pressure, you get really creative.
Yeah.
But obviously, longer games take longer, and they've even overtaken the time schedules for movies and such. So, like Call of Duty, that's a good 5-6 year movie.
Yeah. Shadow of Mordor got pushed back
Mm-hmm.
a couple months, like a month ago.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to like not rush it at all.
Yeah. And that's proper. You know.
Yeah.
Be kind to your developers. Don't be mad at them if they have to push the date because they're
I mean,
trying their best. They want the best game, not the
BioWare.
Either that or you end up with Andromeda.
So you get the idea that there are tools that we can relate to, and the main thing about it is if you want to do a specific job, you get that specific tool, and you have a whole box of tools that you can reach from and play with.
Right.
And you're like, I want to make this guy look pretty and pretty scary at the same time. I'm going to use these 3 tools and do this stuff. You got that? Okay. But we're talking about game tools.
Yeah.
So you want to pull apart your design or where you are in the development of your game and decide, what do I need to do right now? What is the tool that I'm going to need to get this done? Sometimes you already have that tool. Sometimes the tool is built into Unity, like lights and cameras and fun things like microphones and stuff. But sometimes, a lot of the times, you're making a game that's unique and interesting, like not the same game. And in those cases, you got to build the tool yourself.
Right.
Which is an interesting concept, but let's see if we can get to it. So in this case, you said, this is cool. Actually, do you remember at the end of last episode, we were playing the game and then I realized you couldn't quit the game without like killing the process, and then we said, oh wait, we need to do something else. So I built a new tool just to quit the game. So again, here's another script. It looks like a smaller wall of text, but basically there's a thing that only does something, and it's not even remembering anything. It's just looking for me to hit the key escape, and then it does this application quit. Okay, is this English? No, it's another language, but it tries to at least make it a little bit easier for you, right? This is another tool. Its only purpose is to quit the game entirely, just shut it down when I hit escape. It won't do it when I'm in the editor, but it'll do it once we build the game.
Right.
I think we made one for the player controller as well. So this thing is a tool that's all its job is to remember how fast this character can move, which is actually pretty slow. We might speed it up. But then take the keys W, A, S, and D and move the character.
Is there any way to increase the size of the text?
Let's see what I can do. Okay. I would say
maybe maximize the window.
Hold on. Well, I can definitely do that, but what I'm looking for is
to make the text.
Yeah, I want to do. Thank you.
There it is.
I'm looking for Control ++. That's.
Maybe just click on it on the
There
view.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's as good as I can get, but okay. Technical difficulties have already. So what we're looking at is a larger wall of text.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
More intimidating.
But the point I want to make is we built this up over time, and we test it, and we look at see what's wrong, or we could look and see how it could be better, right? We could say, oh, that's good, but what's the fun in that? We should probably improve on this.
Right.
Let's say we decide, you know what, W, A, and D, S, and D is cool, but maybe we could use arrow keys as well. We can, add to our code and try not to break the thing, and make it do an arrow key instead. So instead of W, it could also take the up arrow. Okay? I want to say and then we would want to do what? Test? Yes. The answer to the question, should we test that theory is always yes. In this case, I screwed up. Let's see. In this case, see, this is the problem with maximizing the window. I don't see what I'm doing. There we go. I have a feeling that a different script is giving me a problem. Let me see.
You can shrink it. It was just hard to read on the screen earlier.
I hear you. Oh, is it this one? It's this one. Okay, so should we test the theory that now we can use the W key as well as the arrow key?
Yes.
Yes, we should. So here's D and A and S, and here's W. Here's the arrow key too. Okay,
Nice.
cool. So the idea is we're going to implement it, try it out, see what could be better, and as we go, always test, right?
Right.
Yes.
So we just tested a second ago, and we thought, wouldn't it be great if we added something like, can you run into the dragon and lose the game?
Yeah, get eaten.
Okay. Now, let's look at what we have going on here already. We can go through this maze, we run into the walls, we got a dragon that does absolutely nothing, but we've got a space, the end zone, that will bring up some text that says you win. Is there anything we can do to make it that seems similar to the thing we want to do, which is if you run into the dragon, it says you lose?
Can you assign the same object to the dragon?
Yeah, so if we have this one tool that says show you win because you got here, why not use this same tool in a different way to show a different banner? So instead of this end text, that if I actually turn it on, it says you win.
Yeah.
Let's duplicate this. Let's take this object that's really another kind of tool. This one's given to us by Unity. And all it's meant to do is display some text. So let's say you got eaten. Okay. All right.
You're likely to be eaten
I'm
by
telling
a
you,
bird.
you
You're
did.
likely to be eaten by a grue. See, I'm not that old. This reference is good. See, okay. So here is. Oh, I didn't want to do it on this. You got eaten is the losing text. Let's call it losing text so we don't get confused.
Yes.
Okay. What we would like to do is tell people you got eaten if you ran into the dragon. And so, where's our dragon? It's this thing. Right?
Blue dot.
Right?
Yep.
Excuse me. Okay.
There he is.
This is our.
Or she.
We're calling it quick game. All right. Let's call this dragon. This is now going to be our creature that detects whether or not we've run into something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give it something that can detect whether or not this is another tool that just says I can run into it like a wall, or I can run through it, and it can just detect that I've run into it like a trigger. That's what our other thing did. And all I really have to do to make it a trigger is set this tool to do that. So part of what makes this tool useful are these options that it has. Rather than dealing with code and plowing through all the code, I could really just be looking at these options, kind of like the tool settings in Photoshop, right?
Right.
I can look at those options and set the burn dodge tool to a sensitivity that does the thing I want it to do. In this case, I'm working with this tool so that I've just set it from being something that's solid to something that's going to act like a trigger and do something, right? I have my end trigger that has this script on it, and it's set to work on this end text win. It's set to turn on this end text right here. I'm going to turn off this losing text and put that exact same script for our end trigger on this thing. Now, is it an end trigger anymore if we use it as a dragon? Well, I guess
it is, because if you get eaten by the dragon, the game's over.
I'm buying it. I'm down with it. So let's put that script on there. You know how we do this in Unity? It's pretty cool. There's a couple of ways, but one of them is you just kind of click it and drag it over there and drop it in. Boom. That's it.
Nice.
So now I've got this same script we were looking at. If I double click on it, you can see it again. Wall of text. But all it's going to do is remember what it is that we're trying to turn on. I called it an end banner here, but it's really just the name I called it. I could, you know, it's an object that I would like to turn on. And all it's going to do is wait for an object called player to run into it. Well, in that case, that's perfect, because I'm going to make it turn on this losing text. that's what it's going to remember now. I dragged it just the same way that I dragged the script onto there. I dragged the reference for my losing text on there, so that's what it's remembering as the end banner.
Okay.
I have a theory. My theory is that when we run into the dragon, it's going to say you got eaten. Should we test that theory?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Sounds like sound science.
let's see. It is the science of computer science. We want to test our theory. So here's our player, and he's going to run to the end, but wait, no, the dragon! Okay, and he got eaten.
Oh no! And he kind of looks like he's got like a football helmet on. Now,
Right?
now, can you make that instead of a trigger? Can you make it a collider and still have the banner come up that they got eaten?
Sure. So what we're seeing now is, and you're really good at this. You're really good at finding the thing that we should do next, which is perfect. It's a good designer quality. So
See, you should be making games.
So we can have this script act in a different way and work with a solid object instead. So when you run into the solid object, it does the same thing. But if we want to keep the same tool, we can modify it so it can be configured a different way. We have lots of options, actually. Another option is what I'm going to do right now, which is simply let's put an extra collider on this dragon so he's still solid, but he still works the same way that he had before.
Okay, so you're trying not to interfere with the already existing code.
Sure, and that's a sound way to work. Basically,
Okay.
if it works, don't break.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Broke, fix it. That's exactly what I meant. So in this case, I might just make another object that could act like. I'll make an empty object and put it basically inside of him. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, I'm doing what's called parenting. So it's like it's a child of this object, and if I move or scale or rotate this parent object, the dragon, the child is going to move with it. That's all.
Cool.
So it's as if we're dealing with the skeleton and the hand bone's connected to the forearm's connected to the arm bone. If I move my arm, my hand and my forearm also move.
Right.
Fair enough.
These are parented together, right? Like in a chain. So in that way, I could, like you said, keep things working the way they are and just add to this dragon to make him do something else. In this case, let's make him solid. Here's a solid piece. Let's see if we can look at it a different way. Yeah, so the green outline you see here is showing the solid part that I'm going to be able to run into.
Oh.
Okay, so I can make it about the same size, but let's think about this. I don't want it to be bigger than the dragon because I still want to be able to run into the dragon and get eaten. We want to be able to lose the game, I guess. So I have a theory now that we're not exactly going to run through the dragon. Should I test that theory?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We will only run into his mouth.
I think so.
Nom 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 nom.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay.
There's like the physics of it shows as well. I really
But
like
it didn't
that.
quit the game.
We could quit the game.
Oh. Okay, I thought it was supposed to quit the game when you got eaten.
Okay. That's a good one. See, you're really good at this.
Yeah.
So now we could add a new tool that says, right? That
Yeah.
No, that's good, right? That's a good quality. So now we could add a new tool that says, stop the game and do something else now that you're done, right?
Yeah.
Which is like go to
we
like
could,
a
we could go to a menu. We could stop the game and reset it. We could
continue, quit, like,
right.
go to game over screen.
right? Or game over, like bloody letters and like.
Yeah.
Like
Way to
fade
suck.
fade to black, etc. Yes, right.
Good job. You got eaten.
So, if we continue with the idea that I'm going to show some images and kind of describe what we're doing, let's pretend like we kept working on this game and kept working on this game. Well, we'd be making new tools to do new things, like go to the menu, say you're dead, and all that stuff to fade to black or whatever. After a while, you'd be building up a toolkit that you could take with you and use in other games. That's what makes programmers very useful, is the fact that they remember what they did and just reuse it. In effect, it's a serious virtue to be extremely lazy as a programmer and just reuse what you did before, right?
Fair enough.
And so when we talk about the kind of tools that you want to make, you want to also be used to thinking about, can I use this tool again? If so, how do I make it more useful later? So thinking about the end trigger script that I just made that says you win is it might be better to not say that it is the end banner and that's the name of the variable that you're trying to remember. Maybe I should just say text that you display when you get this thing. So some tools are going to be one-off and things that you just use once, like the quit application tool. There's really no other use for it other than to quit. But maybe you could set that up so that it could be triggered in a different way. Instead of hitting escape, you hit some other key. So you want to think about using tools more broadly.
Would an example of that be like in tutorials, in game tutorials, how they always are like, aim here to do this thing, and then like, oh, run through this door and press A to move the obstacle. Like, all of those are an example of like, I mean, yes, they're QuickTime events to an extent, but like those are all individual code that it's the same code that they just gave different properties to.
Very good, that's exactly right. So if when you... See?
You could have asked for a high five. I'm
No,
right here.
Right,
I did it myself. I'm a strong, independent woman. Don't need no extra high fives.
Mental high five. Go.
At the time when the designers finished doing that design, the programmers probably looked at the design and said, so wait, this is a QuickTime event, and this is a QuickTime event, and this is a so these are all the same, yeah? Okay, let's write one tool that does QuickTime events. So we can display the icon, look for the button press, look for the window of time to press the button, and then trigger something.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs to do. Let's make it really general so it can trigger the cutscene, it can trigger...
It's Heavy Rain in a nutshell.
Exactly, right?
Every game by Quantic Dream ever.
Right? And you can bet that when you have a tool, a single tool that's going to be applied over and over again, they're going to refine that tool and make it the best it can be. Not just, make it look good for the game, but also make it super useful for the game designers, the level designers to implement it. And so the people who are using the tool might be more important to the tool design than like the player of the game, because it's really a tool for the people making the game, not for the player.
So this is a very hectic toolbox.
Yeah, this looks pretty packed, but think about how elegant this is. This, I think, is meant to just be folded up like a suitcase and taken with you, right?
Yeah.
It's a Freemasons.
It's clearly an image. Somebody really loved how well they packed this thing in. Yeah.
That compass. Yeah, right. That's
It's beautiful.
Freemason.
It's beautiful.
No.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely.
All right.
Ooh.
If we have the ability to use tools over and over again, and we're looking ahead for the whole game, and we're thinking about tools that we can use, right? We're talking about modular design, and this is not unlike saying, "Oh, I'm going to build this world out of these, this bank of pieces for the level." So there's platforms that I can see in this thing.
Awesome.
There's like bridges and things like that. So these pieces all come together, and then you're going to sprinkle in the unique bits like the fountain or the basket. I don't know what the basket is.
2 baskets there.
Right.
A boat.
But you're going to build this thing up using modular pieces that can be fit together. So not only are you thinking about, when I make this tool, is it going to be able to be reused, or is it just a one-off? But you're also going to be thinking about, when I plug it in, is it going to be able to talk to any other tool and configure in different ways? Because if I have, let me see if I can think of a good example. If I have something that can track health, but that's it. That's less useful than one that can track health and very easily trigger the thing that respawns the player.
Right.
So along with having a modular design that can fit together, another idea would be that you have, like what we've been talking about is each tool can have a single job, and that's really all they do. It's actually very manageable when it's a small piece of code, and it's called atomic design, where you have just one thing that it does. That's what atomic means. So if you have tools that just do one thing and they all work together, you could kind of build really complex structures or complex game dynamics like Legos. because
Yeah.
each are like little pieces, and if they all fit together in any which way you want, you can mix or match your things together. That's actually very close to that description of Unity's architecture. It's the component-based architecture, because this game object can have this component on it or that component,
Right.
or a bunch of those components and make it more complex.
It reminds me of
Object.
Spore.
Yeah,
The Will Wright game.
yeah,
Yeah.
where you can take the piece of the qualities of the creature you want
Yeah,
and put it together and make.
Even with the buildings, like even the building creation was so interesting because it was completely modular. It was really interesting, and it reminded me of it completely.
So I have a question. We played last week on the show. We played Lara Croft Tomb of Osiris.
Okay.
And yeah, it was awesome. It was on Thursday. It was great. So in it, there's like pressure plate platforms. Like you press the pressure plate, and then there's a reaction somewhere in the game. Sometimes it'll make a ball drop, like a bomb drop. Sometimes it'll make platform move, swing open, swing closed, a gate open, close, or like a gas come out that you have to set on fire. So all of these things that are happening are all related to that pressure plate. So how does that look in code? Is the code, like, would that just be one piece of code? The pressure plate will always react, like, or do you have to build a code for the pressure plate that triggers the gas, and one that triggers the gate, and one that triggers the bomb?
That's a great question, because at some point the developers needed to ask that question and figure that out as well. There are different approaches. As strict and weird as code can look, I mean, if you get something out of place, it'll just crash the
Not
system
work
and won't
ever,
run,
yeah.
right? As weird as that is and as strict as that seems, there's actually a lot of different ways, a lot of creative ways to do the same thing. So the situation you described, where you have like a single trigger that does different things, could be done with modular atomic code that is just fit together in a way that can send the signal to the trigger to different places, right? Or other programmers really don't would rather have control over this piece, and if it's the only piece in the game that does something like this, maybe they want to completely code the thing as one unit and have control of it that way. So there are multiple approaches to it, and it could be anywhere in between. It could be done different ways. For say the game we worked on last semester, the Enlighten game that we talked about, there we had the benefit of using some tools that I had worked on before, and at the same time I knew there were going to be special cases like puzzles, like you see in Lara Croft, that needed custom code just to do this thing, because you could build it up, with a more complex atomic modular design, or you could just write it from scratch. And it's sort of the same thing, but two different approaches.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so I've gotten you through some tool working and some concepts about building up your tools, so you get a toolkit, and you could work with a modular design and such. Let's go from here and say, okay, well, that's great. We have these old tools that do something cool, all right? But as you're good at pointing out, we can probably make them better. We should probably make new tools, yeah?
Right.
Right. Okay. So let's go ahead and figure out ways to refine what we have and make this better. Okay. We've been spending some time on this maze, and that's cool. What could we do with this? I'm gonna let you guys pick.
I'd like for it to look like a real game.
You'd like?
No, I mean like textures and stuff. Is that the last thing you do?
Oh, we could make it look. I see what you're saying. We could start painting textures and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could definitely.
What? I said something bad?
Can we make it good?
No, it is good. But I mean,
no, it's not.
Like the walls don't look like walls. They look like gray platforms.
They look like gray blocks, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we could certainly.
Is that not the right answer? I was wrong.
No.
I jumped some steps. I did a thing.
Well, let's put it this way. On a development team, you'd be turning to the art director and saying, "Hey, those walls are looking pretty flat and gray. Can we do something about that?" And he'd say, "Yeah, you're right," and they get a team on that.
But is that the last thing that you do in a game?
No, that's probably one of the first things you'd be working on, but it's one of those things that takes time. You'd also be talking with the composer and saying, "Can we get our music together? We want this kind of music happening, all that stuff." You'd be talking with the writers saying, let's try and get the character arc working and everything.
Because then again, if the mechanics
Summer wants the dragon to look like a dragon.
Oh my goodness! Well, let's start with. I hear you. Let's make it look better. Let's start with a green color, right?
And just blending in with the background.
Let's just make it to where you can't see anything of it.
Let's make a gray floor.
To the asset store.
Let's make the walls blue. Okay, so now we're making everything totally different. And did I tell you about prefabs? Okay, so let's do this again.
Yeah.
I think we did this last time.
Yeah.
We had a system where we can say, we know we're going to do, just like tools, we know we're going to use this once, not just once, but a bunch of times, so let's make it useful. Well, in the case of these models in the game, we can say, I know I'm going to have a lot of walls, and there's a pretty good chance I'm going to decide that we're going to change the color of the walls. So let's make it a prefab. In other words, there is one prefabricated original, and everything else is a copy from it.
All right.
Why would we do that? Well, because now that we've decided we would love these walls to be blue so they show up, we can change one of them and then apply it, this little button right here, and apply it to the original so that they all turn blue.
That's awesome.
So that saves us time. We can not only just change the color, we could change the structure of the entire component. So let's say I have 20 dragons in my game. And I've been working with that'd be great, right?
Yeah,
we have this
Skyrim.
we have this cube, we have this little capsule that's like shiny and green, and that's okay. But then we put on the full scaly model with the wings and the fire and everything, and it's actually animated and it's got intelligence and all this stuff. That's great. We build that one, and we hit apply, and now all 20 dragons are also updated and doing that whole stuff. So
That's awesome.
we can, because it's a prefab, it knows this is that same copy of an object. I know that the original has changed, so let's change all the copies.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we parented the little green pill to have the little collider in it, so the trigger to have a collider embedded in it.
Yes. And thank you for using the right terminology. It is a collider. Very good.
Look at me learning things on a shonen school that I've been on for many months. This is literally the extent of my knowledge, though. I just want to sound cool. So right now our dragon looks like this, but when you drag and drop the skin of a real dragon, like the animated thing, it's going to have a neck out here, and it's going to have wings out to the side and little legs and whatever. But the box, the player, will still collide. Like, how does the collider know that now it's possible, like, if this was just the square, you can collide with it up here and back here in the tail and out here on the wings. It doesn't have to be just in the box.
Yeah, right. and to actually go right out of that, how do you make this hitbox be this, this variable thing?
Okay. Great question. So the hitbox and the simple shape that we can collide into is really just a convenience of saying this is a simple shape. I guess back in the old days, it was smart to do it that way because it would be faster for the computer to calculate.
Yeah.
We have faster computers now, and it really doesn't matter. There's just a separate kind of collider that says, take the shape of the mesh itself. The same mesh that you wrap the texture around and make it look pretty, let's just have that be a collider. Okay. So we can actually collide into the dragon itself.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay.
So,
if I may just ask really quickly,
absolutely.
One of the things that happens a lot, if you look at Gen 1, like PlayStation and even Xbox, like going up to even recently, something that happens a lot, and this is something that I never really get why developers let it happen. You're watching, it's not a pre-rendered cutscene, but it is a cutscene in engine, and you watch your character's clothes or their beard or whatever, something clipping through themselves.
Why?
And one of the big things that people have been talking about lately is it started with EA and their EA Sports whole thing, like with the UFC, for example.
Okay.
They were like, "Oh, this is a completely non-clipping engine. Like nothing in this game clips through anything."
Famous last words, right?
And actually, the models were really realistic. Like to the extent where, like, oh my god, they're not clipping through each other, and they're doing like jiu-jitsu moves on each other. Like they're choking each other, and it's, you know, you see the skin deforming, and you know, it's really, really cool. But how can we make that same principle, you know, of making sure that polish is present at all times in video games? How can we, you know, go about making sure that polish is present?
Okay.
Even with small things like, I was playing Tekken 7, came out recently. Heihachi's shirt during the story mode, his hair is like this, and he has a big beard, and he does this, and he looks to the side, and he has his collar's up, and his face just goes through the collar in this really dramatic scene, and you're like,
right.
This is not. Come on.
Yes, and it takes you out of the scene, and it's making you go, oh, that's right, I'm watching a video game and stuff. In a way, you almost want the game to sort of own up to it and to just play into that, and then in really dramatic places, like, you know, deliberately punch through the geometry and stuff. Do you want the short answer, or do you want the really involved answer?
The short answer, because we have to continue going on this.
All right. The short answer is you solve that problem by testing a lot and caring about the quality and not letting it go, not letting that get released with little glitches like that. Yeah. It would take seeing the problem in the engine and going back to the animators and saying, can we do something about it? Going back to the tech people and saying, is there something we can do to fold the beard as he moves over the collar and things? Or can we just change the scene a bit so you don't see that angle or something? There's lots of creative solutions, but essentially at some point they had to say, well, let's just ship it.
Oh.
Yeah, it
makes me disappointed.
Sad, right? That's a big thing that people, like, one of the things that people forget about for motion capture acting, because a lot of them think, like, oh, it's not going to be a big deal to go into, you know, this big open space, this volume, and play act. Like, sure, okay, whatever.
Play acting, and it makes sense.
Except the thing is unless you have concept art of the character you're playing, all of a sudden, like one of the things that one of our instructors talks about is, like, if you have a shoulder pauldron with a 3-inch spike on it, you can't
do this. You should be aware of the constraints that your character would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the illusion is only carried if the actor has that in their head and can
accommodate it.
It can accommodate it. And it's so hard. I've seen a lot of motion capture setups where it's just really easy to be like, well, I'm in a tracksuit. I'm in you know, a leotard essentially, and I'm free to move. It's easy to move really freely, and even with the concept art, you know, that's a stretch of the imagination that I guess, you know, actors are good at and should be adept at, to try and say, okay, these are the kind of limitations I have. I have seen other shoots where they actually put constraints on. You know, build it in.
If it's a big thing like
to remind you can't.
Like an armor.
Yeah.
But you can't have armor because of the markers. But what they'll do is they'll put, like, if you have a spiky shoulder pauldron or something, they might attach like through Velcro
or something.
Yeah, something that'll touch you. So when you turn your head, you're like, oh, I can't turn it past this. Okay. And then you know that if you feel that, you're like, I gotta reshoot that. Right. And the thing is, it's like $25. I think it's like $25 a second of game footage is how much it costs.
Jesus.
To give you an idea of, like, how much pressure it is to not screw up when you're in the volume.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's what I want to do, so do it.
Yeah.
Velson, there's a lot of work that comes into designing a character that you can have do any motion without clipping. There's also a lot of work that comes into designing a character that you can have do any motion without clipping.
And that I could speak to in terms of animation. You're talking about a lot of time to say, I would like this kind of character, and to render that and say, here, artist, go. And then there's a lot of time to model that into a 3D model that looks like the drawing you made. Mm-hmm. And then they hand it off to a technical director and they say, here you go, artist, go. And they go through a process of putting bones in it to make it move. And then they or maybe they're doing it themselves, work on it to make sure that the geometry that was modeled follows those bones. that can be where you run into the problems of, if I turn my head here, I'm going to run into the spike. What do we do?
Yeah.
But you're already spending, I mean, for that character, for that game that we made, I spent a couple of weeks just animating that character and making that character look decent. If you're already spending a couple of weeks on one character, you may be working on 3 other characters or something like this. You may not have the time to stop and work out all of those kinks. But so
we're making things look like games.
We're making this thing. So I'm going to make a door. How about that? I'm going to make a game object, and I'm going to call it door. What I would like to do is improve this game slightly, but it's going to take a couple of things. First, I need something that actually looks like a door, just to show you that you can build. Okay. I would like to make this door quickly, just for the sake of time. So I'll make a cube first. That'll make it easy, and I'll call it door that way. The other way to do it would just be to build this up from scratch, because if I show these side by side, the only difference between these two things you can see on the right-hand side of the inspector. You can see what this game object contains. The only thing that's different is these other components on there that make it look like a cube. In this case, there's a mesh that has these 6 points on it, so it makes it look like a cube. There's a collider on it, so you can run into it, and that's the same kind of collider we looked at before. And there's a renderer. This just takes the mesh information and says, what should we wrap around this cube and make it actually look like something. Notice if I turn that thing off, it just disappears. It's not like it's not there. It still has collision. The mesh is still technically there. It's still a cube. We just don't see it. Likewise, I can change the color of it. Let's. What color should the door be?
Brown.
Yes, it should be brown, probably. I'm doing this just to illustrate the fact that as we go, we're trying to build up the game step by step, right? So let's make a brown material to play with, and again, here's another tool, but it's really just talking about color settings and other things. In this case, I'm going to get to pick a color, not unlike Photoshop stuff. Let's make it look kind of like okay, like that. Good enough?
Yeah.
All right. So I can decide that this cube needs to actually render like something, and I'll make it brown. You know how I'm going to do that?
Drag and drop.
I'm going to drag and drop. I could drag it onto the cube itself,
Oh,
or I can drag it over here onto the material that is looking for the brown material. Either way, it's going to work like that.
Okay.
Unity likes to allow you to just, be touchy-feely like that and drag things onto other things. All right. So this door doesn't look like a door. What's wrong?
It's in the middle of a walkway.
It's in the middle of, well, that makes sense for a door.
But I mean, like,
right?
it's not attached to a wall. It's just in the middle of a room.
Okay. Let's move it closer to where it should be. I'm going to say in this doorway right here. It should be, that's not blocking that's not a door. What's wrong?
It's not wide enough.
It's not wide enough. Let's make it wide. So,
oh, that's cool.
okay, so these are tools in a sense because they are used to manipulate the game object and stuff. I can use this same tool to move this door around the scene, and I can use a different tool, a similar tool to scale it or to rotate it and that kind of thing.
Okay.
In this case, I've made this shape that kind of looks like a door, and I made it brown, like a door should be. I would like to make this door, what, open?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should make it dissolve into the ether.
Okay,
No,
let's
just
do
opening is fine.
we could have it drop down, go up, slide open, or swing open.
Nice swing.
Let's do a
Yeah.
swinging thing. All right, if I were to rotate this game object like this, what's wrong? Well, that doesn't quite swing.
It's like the Indiana Jones secret passage.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
That is pretty cool.
Should
Though.
should we do that? No.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's okay. Let's say
They're
like
rad.
let's say like that wasn't good enough, because what we're going to show you could be done either way.
Okay.
I'm going to make a another game object that isn't rendered. It's not supposed to be seen. All I'm going to do is position it basically where this door is. And what it's going to do is it's going to act like the hinge. It's going to act like the place where the door pivots from. So where would that be? Right about maybe here, something like that? Okay. So let's call that the door pivot place. I'll make this. So what I would like to do now is just be organized, I guess. I'll call it hinge. And I want to do it, I want to make it so this door now follows the hinge. If I rotate the hinge, I want the door to follow. Do you guys remember what we did before with the dragon and the...
You're going to parent it.
I want to parent it, yes. So if I want the hinge to tell the door what to do, I want to make the door a child of the hinge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's the hinge pivot. And if I rotate that now,
that's right.
it's starting to look like a door. Okay, so at this point in the process, I may act like what I want my script to do. I'm here in the engine, and I'm pretending that it's running, or I might even actually run the game while I'm playing. And I might say, what I really want to do, if I make this small again, what I really want to do is be able to move my character, and then when the character gets to about here, I would like the door to open like that.
Yeah.
Done. And then my character can move. Okay? Win. Cool. All right. That's what I want this to do. Notice Unity reset everything as soon as I hit stop because it wants to remember how I set the scene. That's nice. All right. So let's go ahead and say when I rotate this, I'm going to pay attention to the hinge object that we can see the transform numbers on the side. You see on the side, you see these numbers change? Mm-hmm. It's this Y rotation value that's changing from 0 to, what, 90?
Yeah.
Cool. So what I want to do now is make a tool that is going to do something similar to our end trigger. It's going to wait for... actually, hold on. Stop.
Collaborate and listen.
What do we want to have happen? We run into the door and the door opens?
Right.
Yeah. Don't we have something similar already?
Yeah, but we need to have...
Collider.
No, that's not the collider. That's the you win.
We have something that waits for you to get to a spot and then does something, right? So what does it do? It turns something on, right?
Yeah.
We could have that thing it turns on be another tool that opens the door.
Okay.
So, in other words, we can reuse the tool that's already waiting to be collided with and use it as a trigger. Instead of turning on text, we can have it turn on the door and essentially open the door.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're being lazy.
Yay!
Now we're being efficient. Now we're being lazy, and we should celebrate that because we don't have to write that extra code again. In terms of making this thing open a door, it's like 5 minutes. It's not that bad. In terms of rewriting code that took half an hour, that can add up. And you're saving time. You're saving the company money. It's a virtue to be lazy and to try and reuse your stuff. That's the point. So let's say.
You hear that, Mom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's call it what? Open door trigger. Okay.
That's a good trigger.
Yes, it's a good name for a trigger. And I'm gonna center this where the door is, and I'm gonna put that thing on it that waits for the player. It's the collider, right? I'm gonna set it so it is a trigger, just like the other ones. And I'm gonna put that script on it. This is the script that does, it waits for something and turns something on. We've been calling it end banner, but really it's just waiting for the player to show up, and then it turns another tool on.
But isn't that going to mean, like, if the player goes to the left or right of that, it's not going to open? Or does that mean that it can go anywhere to the left of it, but if it goes to the right of that trigger, it won't trigger it?
I
mean, what's the effective area?
Like if this little box goes here instead of here, or directly on it, will it still trigger it?
If the player goes anywhere where that green cube is, then it's going to detect that it's a trigger. So it
because you can expand the area.
You can expand the area of the trigger. Oh, right.
That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, exactly. So I can make it wider and stuff. It was in a bad place, but all I really want to do now is make sure that once the player gets like in front of it, then it'll work.
That makes sense.
So,
but now he's going to be trapped on the other side.
But he still wins.
Yeah, I guess he still wins.
Yeah.
All it's
He
going to
wins
do,
in the death room.
all it's going to do is open the door. We could have a slightly more complicated script that waits for the player, and once the player is there, open the door, and once the player leaves, close the door. We could do that.
Right.
Right. Grocery store. That's the automatic door at the grocery store, right?
Interesting.
So we have something now that is waiting and is going to turn something on. Do we have the tool that turns that opens this door?
No, not yet.
Do we have to write code?
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we
some
don't
code.
have anything that is acting like
we don't yet have a tool that does this very specific action, which is rotate an object. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's rotate an object. All I really want to do is figure out two things. What does this script need to remember, and what does the script need to do? Well, the do is kind of in the name. We want to rotate an object. The remember might be what object are we going to rotate, and
when to rotate it.
Well, I think when is going to be
The trigger.
the trigger itself, but what angle to rotate it to might be the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can create a C# script just by saying I said create, and that I can make materials like I did. I made the brown material. I can make a lot of things in scene or whatever. In this case, I'm just making a C# script. By default, it comes in with some code that's ready to compile, even though it doesn't really do anything. It's even prompting me with a little bit of work so that I know that, so I don't forget that there's a place to put some code that I want to do at the start and just do once. And there's a place to do code that I want to do every single frame the thing is running. In this case, I would like to, there's two things we wanted to remember. We want to know what object it is that we're going to work on. In this case, it's like the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Object to move sounds like a good name for this variable. It's this thing we want to remember. It's the object to move, okay? And another thing we wanted to do was remember the angle to rotate it to. Okay, so I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to set this to be a rotation variable. So it's going to remember a specific rotation to go to, okay? I'll call it target rotation. Why not? Okay. All that's to say, I'm now remembering the two things I needed to do, which is what am I moving and what am I moving? What angle am I going to move it to? Okay. If this tool turns on, the object with this script on it, it should do what we need it to do as long as we've coded it. So I'm just looking to set this script to rotate the game object that we're looking at. Object to rotate, object to move. Notice that as I'm typing, again, we talked about this last time, this program, Mono developed, that's like a text editor that's like on steroids. It's trying to help me remember like thousands of lines of code and lots of commands that are at my disposal because it's reading what I've just typed.
Right.
And
it's like
then,
Final Draft.
Yeah, it helps, yeah. And it's trying to autocomplete or at least suggest, in this case, lots of different things that I can do once I'm at this point. In this case, I would like to transform or somehow manipulate this object. And what do I want to do with it? Well, I would like to rotate it. So I'm going to look for the command. Here it is, rotate. Not only that, but there are, obviously, there is a lot of reference online that Unity would like to help you with as you're learning this code. So if I'm not getting enough out of this one program trying to prompt me on the things that I can do, I simply Google it. Right?
Yeah.
And the simplest thing is to say Unity script, and then whatever I'm trying to do. In this case, rotate or move an object. And the results that come back are largely documentation from Unity itself, and it's the reference you're supposed to use when you're trying to code. So it's helpful that way. In this case, I'm looking for a particular version of the rotate script that's going to allow me to rotate the door at the right rate.
Are we back with a thing? Whoa! That is incorrect.
So the answer is
Sonic Boom
that was
stuff.
Exorcist door.
That's some
answer
Sonic
is-
Boom stuff right
the
there.
answer is we are testing. So what I've been trying to do is set the script to do
Nope.
the kinds of things we want it to do, but I realized I needed to test and then work on the results of the test. And the test says ain't working. The things I needed to add to this were, if you're paying attention at home, are
Wilson, we're talking to you.
I know,
Totally.
literally Velson.
totally. We needed to deal with the target angle we were trying to get to. In this case, we're trying to go to 90 degrees. We are trying to keep track of where we currently are, and that's another thing we want to remember. It might not be something the level designer cares what's going on. We just want to set it to go to 90 degrees. We don't care where it is while it gets there. We might want to set the speed of the door, but I'm going to go ahead and set that here in code. At the start, this is the place where we do something once at the beginning of the thing. I'm going to record where the door is now. And then I'm going to keep track of where it is and just sort of increase that door angle as we go and rotate that. And then I'm going to check and see, has that current angle gone past the target angle? And if that's true, we should probably stop this whole thing.
Okay.
I can do that by disabling the entire script. That's the theory. And I've tested the theory, and let's see what happens again. Again, I haven't actually,
crazy.
I'm not waiting for the player to get there because what I'm trying to do is just test to see if the door
If
opens.
the door would open at all.
Yeah.
Now, what I would like to do, though, is have this door open only activate when we get there, right? So I'm using the old script, and we already know that one works. The idea is this would be off, and it would not be rotating the door all crazy. It would be waiting until we get there. So we can actually look here in the this panel while it's playing, and we can see it's moving, and I can get my character there, and as soon as I get there, it should, yay! But it's not going to do this.
It'd be really
That's
funny
not
if you're
gonna-
like, don't let the door hit you on the way out,
Right.
and then it just like sends the character into the other room.
Okay.
Is it just gonna get faster and faster?
Yeah. Now,
Why?
That's a great question.
Why is it's slapping the character? How is that happening if there's no physics assigned to the character?
Oh, there is.
Oh.
Yeah, no, this character has some physics.
He was hitting the dragon
And
earlier.
the door has some physics too. At least it's solid, right?
Yeah.
This component here, rigid body, is telling it to act like a solid piece of thing.
Yeah.
But it deals with gravity and things like that, and it is
Yeah.
dealing with physics.
Is it possible to just assign that door to work according to physics and collision with the player? You just walk into it and it
And just
opens
keeps
as
pressing
you go?
as you walk.
Yeah, you just walk into it and it goes
Mhm.
like that.
What I'm doing with this rotate game object command is I'm telling it essentially to teleport from here to another angle, right? It's not a very big angle. I'm actually trying to make it swing. But another way to do it would be to actually use physics and say torque this thing. And it would
Yeah.
actually, it's a different way to rotate it, but it would respect the physics and would actually push the player. We could do that. What I'm noticing, though, you guys saw this, but let's analyze it for a second. One of the things that's wrong is, well, it doesn't stop at 90 degrees. Another thing that's wrong is it's rotating faster and faster.
It's accelerating as it goes.
Now, that means that, let's assume that the code is doing what it's supposed to do, right? That means that this code that I'm using is actually set up to rotate at a particular speed. And what I'm actually doing, instead of increasing the angle that it is at, I'm actually increasing the speed that it's rotating at. So that would be the problem. That would be a big
Yes,
part of the
I
problem.
felt as much as well.
So let's go ahead and say, instead of looking at increasing this angle and using that to go into this rotate function, because that's evidently making it just increase the speed. Let's set the speed to a certain thing, let it rotate at that, and then, oh, by the way, let's fix the problem where we can't stop once we get to the right angle. Let's actually check the current angle every single frame. I think that's the problem. We weren't doing that. In other words, every frame we were doing all this other stuff, but we never checked to see if the current angle
I see.
had reached the right place. You know what? I'll just get rid of this whole line of code. It's not doing anything anymore. So, every frame we're doing two things. We're now going to rotate this thing at a constant speed based on vector up just says spin on this axis as opposed to some other axis. And then I'm going to get the current angle and check to see that it's not greater than the target angle we're going for. Maybe that'll work. Should I test that theory?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Oh, it's tense. Oh, it's tense. Oh, I got eaten.
God, you're terrible at this game.
So hard. All right.
Where's the designer?
Let's try it again. Let's try it again.
Like Metal Gear Solid music starts playing.
No, I'm not going to take credit for designing this because.
Hey, it's so gentle.
Yes!
Look, and we win!
We did it!
Yay! And so you did that by... I'll get you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
You did that by basically checking the angle for every frame, you said.
Yeah. This one tool, all it's meant to do is rotate the object. And it takes... we decided we wanted to take a target angle, and that was it. We want to know what object we're going to move, and so those are two things we need to remember. In fact, those are the things that we want this tool to be able to set. That's kind of important. Like I said, these tools aren't for the player. They're really for the people developing the tools. So while the game we're normally very concerned with the player and how the player experiences this. For making tools like this, we're actually concerned with the people who use it, which is the developers. So, real quickly, if I can, we made these cool tools, we tested them a lot, and oh wow, there's a fun chart that talks about engineering, which is basically the cycle we went through. We test, we try to develop, we present it to people and say, how did this work? I could show you this really fun, delicious chart, but maybe I could show you a more complicated chart that shows engineering, no, how about a really complicated chart that shows complicated engineering. This is actually the Apollo mission landing code or something like that.
Wow.
But no, it's actually super simple.
No, it's right.
You imagine what you want to do. You ask what do you want to, how do you want this to work, and you give really good suggestions about how to improve it. And so then you create that stuff and you plan for it and you try to continually improve. So the main idea is in this loop, we might not be dealing with the player getting the game information and trying to figure out how to process the game and what input to do into your system.
Right.
Now it's the developer, the level designer, things like that. So that's the human that we're concerned with in this case. Awesome.
Interesting. Well, that was really cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool how we brought...
And that's how you make a game.
Duh!
Mic drop.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm continually amazed at how accessible Unity is.
Yeah.
Like it makes it where if you just want to get in and play around, you can still create something.
Yeah.
Which I think is
I did
a lot
not
of
expect
fun.
it to be this simple.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say simple.
It's simple
compared to what someone that's never seen this would imagine. I imagine that it's just code that you have to type in.
I made a ball in Unity roll down a hill once, and that was like the light of my life.
That's awesome.
I can retire. Anyway, so I wanted to. Obviously, big thank you to Glenn for coming into the studio again.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm glad that the bribe worked and was sufficient.
Right?
And I'm sure you'll only double it next time.
Yeah.